No, it's my birthday today though, so I've had this like insanely busy
Happy
birthday day. Can you
Eat something
so
round.
be nice to me? Well, I went to this Navy Yards project today and they had a cake for me there, so that was kind of cool. So anyway, you are all attending for anyone. Oh, thank you, Kyle. It's the Manhattan Community Board 6 full board meeting for June. So it's June 10th, 2020. And I'm Molly Hollister, the chair, and I'm joined by Seema Shah, the secretary, and district manager Jesus Perez, assistant district manager Cody Osterman, and community associate Brendan Berth. So I think, let's see, so before we have no public hearing tonight, and we just need to adopt the agenda that you have. I don't know if we're seeing it on the screen.
1 second.
But you all have received the agenda and all of the resolutions. So if there are no objections, I know you all have the agenda, so that's fine, Cody. We can move forward. The minutes, the agenda has been adopted. And Seema, do you want to do the first roll call?
Yep, will do. And if I could just ask everyone, as you know, as we've been doing these Zoom calls, just to kind of verbally let me know that you're here, just because I can't see the screen and fill out the attendance at the same time. So I'd appreciate that. Hope everyone is having a good evening tonight. All right, first roll call. Kyle?
Present.
Thank you. Asia? Asia Badi?
No, she's not attending tonight.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Martin Barrett?
Present.
Thank you. Elvie Barroso?
Present.
Thank you. Joan Berenbaum? Joan? All right, I don't hear her yet.
Present.
Oh, is that you, Joan?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Matt Bondi?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire Brennan?
Present.
Thank you. Jim Collins? Jim? Okay. Dan Devine?
Present.
Thank you. Beatrice Dismont?
Present.
Thank you. Janine D'Onofrio?
Here.
Thank you. Richard Eggers?
Here.
Thanks. Charles Fernandez?
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Gross?
Present.
Thank you. Adam Hartke?
Present.
Thank you. Molly is here. Paige Judd?
Present.
Thank you. Yusuf Khalid?
Here.
Thank you. John Keller?
Here.
Thank you. Kathleen Kelly? Kathleen? All right. Abigail Cruzmark?
Present.
Thank you. Anton Malner?
Present.
Thank you. Kavita Matthew?
Here.
Thank you. Sandra McKee?
Present.
Thank you. Wells McGauley?
Present.
Thank you. Richard Mintz?
Here. Present.
Thank you. Karen Moore? Karen? All right. Philip Napolitano?
Here.
Thank you. Rajesh Nair? Did I hear Rajesh? Sorry, I thought I just heard something.
Yeah,
Okay.
present.
Sounds good. Thank you. Kevin O'Keefe?
Present.
Thank you. Rishma Patel?
Present.
Thank you. Matthew Roberts?
Present.
Thank you. Jean Santoro?
Virtually here.
Thank you. Frank Scala? Frank? Okay, I don't see him or hear him. Lawrence Scher?
Present.
Thank you. Ann Seligman?
Present.
Thank you. Lou Sapersky? Lou, are you here? I don't hear him. I am present. Sean Sherman. Sean? Sandro, I think he's absent today. Letty Simon?
Here.
Thank you. Madeline Sims?
I'm here.
Thanks. Susan Steinberg? Susan? Okay. Anju Shirish?
Here.
Thank you. Mark Thompson?
He's absent.
Mark is absent, sorry. Karen Vanderdock? Corinne, I think.
Here.
Thank you. Brian Van Nieuwenhoven?
Here.
Thank you. Pamela Vassell? Pam? All right. Ronnie White?
Present.
Thank you. And Claude Winfield.
Present.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Seema. So before we move into public session, I think we all have it down now. You know how to raise your hand, I think, in Zoom and to be called on. And we have, I think we're all getting this. We're all getting pretty good at this. But just for the members of the public, we do have one speaker already signed up. But if you do want to speak, go to the Q&A feature and sign up there. So we'll make sure you put your name and the topic, what you want to talk about in there and your affiliation, if that's applicable. And so we'll have you speak after at public session as we move forward. I did also want to say, I think I say this every time, but we have a really full agenda tonight. I'm not kidding. We really have a very full agenda tonight. So we have 7 resolutions. The board has really been amazing, hardworking crew, and I'm just really proud of everyone. But we have, we're doing a resolution on equity for Wi-Fi for students. We're helping small businesses and the restaurants reopen with some city streets, and hopefully we'll move some of these things forward, and the solidarity with our friends and the community of people of color of New York. And so we have some really powerful work to be done tonight, and I just want to be sure that the electeds stick to 5 minutes max, and all others is the usual 3-minute max. But please, let's try to keep it moving tonight, and so we can get to these really important resolutions. So that being said, we have the electeds, and let's see, I have a list here. Sorry. I saw Brad Hoylman, so I'm going to just call on Senator Hoylman to start us out. And then I'll try to go down the list and stick to the
Thanks, Molly. Can you hear me?
list. Yep.
Okay, I can't see myself. This is a different screen. I guess you're showing only the, whatever, it's fine by me.
Yeah.
But
Well, you could, yeah, if Cody, if you want to take down the public session note, I don't know if that.
no, it's fine. I don't mind.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
There you are.
Anyhow,
You look great.
I just want to make sure. Anyhow, please, so Molly, it's 5 minutes. So 5 minutes per topic, because I have 10 topics.
5 minutes, please.
Okay,
Go on.
I'll be shorter than 5 minutes. Historic week up in Albany. Really, just thanks to all of my colleagues, my colleagues on the line, the elected officials. We've all been marching, looking to make sure that First Amendment rights are protected, ensuring that the police are actually protecting our storefronts and not on top of protesters. I sent letters to the district attorneys to try to urge them not to prosecute anyone for peaceful violations or of the law or the assembly. I'm glad that they're following suit, at least in Manhattan and in Brooklyn so far. This week we passed a number of bills to respond to this crisis in policing that has reached a climax, and a very important one, whether it's racism in law enforcement or just police brutality, which we saw so evident in Minneapolis, but we've seen in our own city. A law that I passed, one of the bills that passed this week, is called the Police Stat Act, and that's called for that stands for the Police Statistics and Transparency Act. And what it's going to do that's different than what we're doing right now, it's going to collect data of everything ranging from low-level misdemeanor arrests all the way to deaths in custody. And we have not been collecting that information, or having it available to the public until now. That means that low-level misdemeanors and arrests are where broken windows policing comes into effect, really disproportionately affects people of color, namely Black men. And there's been no real representation of that. And in terms of deaths in custody, like somebody, Eric Gardner, and others, those deaths, believe it or not, have been up to now reported to the Division of Criminal Justice Services by virtue of them combing news articles or Googling, phrases. No law enforcement has been ever required to report that. So that's a big change. I think it's going to give, guideposts and a direction for public policymakers like myself and Harvey and Senator Krueger to follow. So I'm very proud of that. The centerpiece of our work, though, was really the repeal of the section of the civil rights law known as 50A, which has created this cloak over police personnel records. And also, as a matter of transparency, we repealed that. It's been a glaring exception in New York. We've only had it since 1976, and other major police forces haven't had it. Chicago, Philadelphia, DC, Los Angeles, New York now joins them. And I think it's going to make for better policing and accountability and responsibility among our communities. So I'm very proud of that. Wanted to also say that, my office remains at your assistance if you're looking still to get your unemployment insurance checks. Sam Vasquez, who's on the call, has done a fantastic job. I want to thank him. We're still distributing PPE and meals. I've weighed in on the issue of Key Bank being very inflexible as it pertains to the cards that individuals receive on which their unemployment benefits are stored. Key Bank's charging fees, and they shouldn't be gouging folks trying to get their unemployment insurance. So we're going to keep the pressure up on them. And then, this week in Albany, I just literally walked into the door an hour ago, follows 2 weeks ago where we passed a number of bills to address the COVID-19 pandemic, including a few of my bills, the Tenant Safe Harbor Act, which prevents tenants from being evicted during the pause period of the pandemic, a bill that would make vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccine, more readily available to be administered by pharmacists. We extended the Child Victims Act, the bill that gives adult survivors a year to file claims. Through Assemblywoman Rosenthal and me, we extended that for another year. So now adult survivors of child sexual abuse have until August 2021 to file claims against their adult survivors. And then finally, we allowed the state of New York to go after price gougers. New York has been ripped off, just like all of us, whether it comes to hand sanitizer, PPE, rubber gloves. In the case of New York, they've been paying, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount that they should be paying for big items like ventilators. And now the Attorney General, thanks to this legislation that I passed, has the ability to crack down on those gougers. So that's my, I think, less than 5-minute summary. Thank you very much, Molly. I know you guys are doing great work. Thanks for all of your virtual work. I want to get feedback on the bill that I introduced about SLA and SLA to go, but we can talk about that at another juncture.
Great. Thank you very much. Good to see you,
Thanks.
Brad.
Bye.
All right. Let's see. So we have State Assembly Member Dan Quart.
Oh, I forgot to
Dan
mention
is-
Dan. Sorry.
Hey, Molly, how are you?
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see everybody virtually, and good to be here with board members and my colleagues in government. And Senator Hoylman did a very good job of explaining some of the bills that we've passed. It's been an exhausting but productive 72 hours in Albany on reforming, in many ways, the interaction between law enforcement and the people who they ought to serve. Brad talked about one of the bills, which was the repeal of 50A, and not to say any is more significant than the other, but The repeal of 50A was something I'd been working on for part of more than a half decade. Assemblymember O'Donnell from the West Side was the sponsor of it. I was a co-sponsor, but I also wrote my own legislation years ago, trying to ensure that body cam footage, dashboard cam footage, would not be cloaked with secrecy that 50A extended to. And it really hurts the credibility of the NYPD itself and many of its officers, the overwhelming majority of officers who conduct their conduct and their activities in good faith, but too many do not. And they were, for very long, those records were not disclosed to the public. So that was a significant piece of legislation. I expect the governor to sign it. But that is just the beginning. It is not the end of the ways we have to respond to this significant moment. Many of us in Albany have been working on these issues for a very long time. And I was very concerned also, and I know Councilmember Powers and others may have, the incident that happened on 50th Street and 3rd Avenue with 3 officers and a bicyclist. And there are multiple ways in which the police's response to the protest, and I don't want to suggest that that bicyclist had, I'm not sure in what context he was riding his bike, but the Attorney General just advised that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch will be looking at all instances of police misconduct in the context of these protests for her office. And more recently, I've written to the IG, the NYPD IG, with respect to an incident that happened on 84th Street and 2nd Avenue. I know that's in the Community Board 8 area. But these are things that need to be followed up on, things that we all saw with our own eyes, or at least portions of it, on Twitter with visual feeds. So lastly, I also wrote a letter today signed by many of my colleagues in Manhattan, Assemblymember Epstein, he may be on as well, really critical, but calling with respect to our district attorney, Cy Vance, here in Manhattan. Last week, Mr. Vance suggested he needed extraordinary powers of pretrial incarceration, powers that the legislature had not given him or any other district attorney to deal with the protesters. And he asked that of Governor Cuomo to give him those extraordinary executive powers. I find that objectionable on multiple levels. District attorneys don't write the law. Senator Holm and myself and Assemblymember Epstein do. And secondly, that's the wrong way to go, to criminalize protesting or protesters through extraordinary powers to incarcerate them indefinitely. So I wrote a letter with several of my Manhattan colleagues, Assemblymember Epstein as well was a signer, calling question and objecting to that alleged practice. And I hope what Mr. Vance says goes nowhere, and we'll see. And lastly, going forward at the rest, hopefully we'll be in session continuously as the need requires. We will be forced to make very difficult decisions if there is no stimulus package or second stimulus package coming that will put extraordinary burdens on city government, because the proposed cuts, not just in Medicaid, but the proposed cuts that state government will have to make to aid to locality, which is the bills in which, or the budget bills in which money flows to Albany, to the city and all other cities throughout the state, will be significant, and will be significant in terms of the pain that it causes for city agencies, potential layoffs, although I hope we can avoid those, but certainly a reduction of services. So we might be at a crossroads going forward, which is why we will be hopefully in remote session or an actual session in Albany. We can't print money. We can't solve all the problems, but we need to be creative in lengthening out payments. During the budget, we did certain practices with the MTA's lockbox and other things, which I would normally object to, but under these circumstances, we had little choice. My hope is through federal stimulus money, we can avoid those difficult choices going forward. But my colleagues on the board should, I'm sure you do, have an understanding of the deep fiscal crisis this state and our city will face if there's not another round of stimulus money, more in the line of block grants that will allow us in the state to fashion the financial remedy in a way that's most conducive to our cities and counties, especially the city of New York. So that is in hopefully not more than 5 minutes, a snapshot of what we did in Albany, local issues related to the police reform legislation, and of course, our budget picture going forward. And it's good seeing everyone remotely, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Dan. I do think we have a question from Jim Collins.
Yeah. Hi, good evening, Assemblyman. I was just curious, have you or your colleagues done anything to address the 48-hour rule with respect to police killings of suspects or others?
Oh yeah, you mean in which they're
They allow the police to sit for 48 hours before having to answer questions of an inquiry.
right?
A lot of nefarious acts can take place during that time.
Certainly, under the law, it certainly acts of potentially of obstruction of justice or concealment of evidence, or there was no bill offered this week on that issue.
Okay.
So
Could we expect to see one at some point?
I think so. There's no public policy rationale for the continuation of a gag order for 48 hours.
If I killed somebody, they would question me. So
It would, and you would have the right to speak or not, but you would
Right.
be interrogated. And I
Right.
think, look, Jim, I mean, we've spoken before,
Yep.
We can have a respectful relationship with our law enforcement, but we also have to be clear, law enforcement are not members of a protected class under the law. And they are not, in my view, deserving of that sort of level of extra protection that no other citizen in this city or state has. So I share your
Agreed.
view on this, but there was no bill presented in the
Okay,
last
very
3
well.
days.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Councilmember Rivera, I think she's on. Oh, she's Katie Loeb. It says Katie Loeb on your.
Oh,
It doesn't look like Katie, so but please.
I would be so lucky. Katie's fantastic. I'm gonna rename myself. So I'm on. Great. Thank you, Molly. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I just want to, I guess, I have to just say something very, very quickly in thanking everyone who's really come out across the nation and advocate for justice over these past 2 weeks, because it's clear that police reform is necessary, that divestment will be critical. And what we've seen in terms of systemic racism, the deaths of Black and Brown Americans over the years with little to no accountability, and the failure to properly de-escalate or even manage the protests that have been here in New York City, it's time for equity. And a $6 billion NYPD budget barely touched, while basics like education and healthcare get gutted. It's just immoral. So we're really working on trying to serve a budget that takes care of the basics and that really funds things like healthcare, education, food, housing, and transportation and infrastructure. So we're working on that now. It is difficult, as my state colleagues have said, but we're really trying to work on that. I guess I'll just give you a recap of my day, because it's been an interesting one. So, I brought PPE, personal protective equipment, to 3 of my local clinics today. A lot of our federally qualified health clinics have been doing heroes work without the resources. And so going to Betances in the Lower East Side, and Ryan Nina in Alphabet City, and Charles B. Wang in Chinatown to bring them masks donated by Pearl River Mart, a small business owner, an iconic business, really, I think just shows how we have to look and really take equity seriously as we're balancing this budget. And that's pretty much what the council is going to be focused on for the next couple of weeks. After that, I went to 344 East 28th Street, which is a night shift development inside of CB6, to also give them PPE. They just have felt, that they really haven't been supported, but I think that's a story that's decades old when it comes to our public housing system. I know that there wasn't any money allocated in the city budget for public housing, but it's really just has been neglected for a very, very long time. And that's at the fault of so many levels of government. And I hope that we can change that. After that, submitting testimony to issue a rent freeze at the Rent Guidelines Board meeting today. There's one more to go if you're interested in submitting your own testimony, and I encourage everyone. I'm asking for a rent freeze. And I was also in Democratic conference today with my colleagues discussing legislation to reform the NYPD, supporting 50A, which, as Brad mentioned, has essentially it has shielded police disciplinary records from the public for 44 years. So a very, very, very long time. And I also have a bill, a resolution to supporting a piece of legislation that's in Congress right now, sponsored by Congressman Jeffries, to ban chokeholds for just nationally and other tactics that are used that result in asphyxiation. So we're hoping to use this momentum to really to translate the action and demands that you see outside into legislative and budgetary reform. And then I joined the systemic racism town hall from people who are very, very close in your district near the Union Square area. And now I'm here with Community Board 6, thanking Molly and thanking all of you for keeping it going. I think, you know, no one can say that local advocacy and hyperlocal government doesn't make a change. I think the council's been doing a good job in trying to be a leader. I think that you all making sure that you're still having these meetings with these very robust, comprehensive, long agendas is really important for our conversation. And so, you know, we're trying our best in the council. We're still dealing with food insecurity and people having trouble accessing internet and the expansion of telemedicine, and making sure that our hospital systems are truly going to be ready when we reopen the city fully. You know, we're in phase 1, and what does that mean? Very few businesses are open, and there's curbside pickup and there's construction going on. But what really is our hospital system gonna look like when it opens at full capacity? And what is our healthcare network going through in terms of what COVID-19 has really done to not just exacerbate some of those you know, inequities that we've seen, but to really recover and make sure that we're investing health dollars into these communities that were disproportionately affected. So it's been a really inspiring and exhausting time. And a lot of these protests have happened right in my district, right near you all. And it's been, I'm really proud of New York City. You know, as I've gone out to these protests, people have asked me if I want water or snacks or medical attention. And, you know, I was outside in front of City Hall, right where I work. So I think the message is loud and clear of what we need to do. And I want to thank all of the elected officials who are here today, some from every part of Manhattan, which is pretty cool, and joining with one unified voice that there really has to be change. It's long overdue. So with that, I guess I'll just say
Carlene, there's one question I think is there still a question from Jim Collins? I think I don't see him on the screen. Okay, I'll
hang out for a little bit, and if anyone
No question, Molly. Sorry. Happy birthday.
Okay, thank you.
You just reminded me that I realized some of the businesses were affected by people destroying the property, and recently did a walkthrough just of Gramercy businesses. Jim just reminded me of this because of where he lives. A walkthrough of Gramercy businesses, especially on 3rd Avenue, that saw some very, very, very serious damage. So we realized that they're trying to replace glass or board up their businesses, and that's going to cost some money. And the mayor recently allocated some funds to do that. But I think we're going to have to do something very, very locally to help people kind of resustain themselves. And then also looking at the outdoor dining situation to help our restaurants open responsibly and safely and get those workers back on the payroll and kind of jumpstart our economy. It's going to take a long time, and we're going to need a lot of patience and graciousness, but I'm here for it, and I know so are you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see, next on the
John
calendar.
Keller would like the floor.
Oh, John?
Yeah, just for just 1 second, I want to thank Councilmember Rivera for mentioning the disproportionate impact of the cuts in the city budget on schools. There's a disproportionate amount, especially to the general education part of the schools. I'd like to thank my colleague Corinne Vanderdonk from Housing, Homeless, and Human Affairs for bringing this to the attention of a lot of us. There is a large bureaucracy that has been virtually untouched by these cuts. And I'd be happy to share more with you on that. Not take any more time here, though, but just thank you for mentioning that.
All right, thanks, John. All right, so State Assembly Member Epstein, oh, there he is. You have the floor. Hi.
Well, thank you, Molly. And as like everyone said earlier, happy birthday. It's been
I'm not sure celebrating a birthday at a community board meeting is the ideal thing, but
Yeah, I
thank you
know.
for joining us and your birthday, and hopefully it'll be a quick meeting. I know you heard a lot about what we did this week around 50A and what the council's going to do around police reform. And I hope that what we talk about is systemic change. And that's what we're all talking about. It isn't just around repealing 50A, isn't just around, making sure that they're more accountable. It's how we think about how we view policing in New York, whether we need police in our schools and to give people tickets and to march with parades. I think we really need to rethink this whole thing. And I think that has to happen across the state, the city, and the country. So I look forward to engaging in that conversation with you all. Budget issues, I know Dan mentioned a lot about what we're facing on the state level and the need for more budget justice. In the next couple of weeks, we expect the governor is going to propose cuts, as John mentioned. Will be potentially across the board cuts, 20%, which will affect all our school funding. It would be horrific if that came to pass. So there's a budget justice coalition pushing for new revenue. I feel like a broken record, but I'll just say it, that we went from 112 billionaires in New York pre-pandemic to 118 billionaires in New York post-pandemic, with 4 million people who became unemployed. So the people who are doing well are doing better. The people who are struggling are doing worse. And so we need to ensure that they pay more. On the city level, you make $500,000 or $100 million, you pay 3.44% of your income towards tax. You make $500,000 or $100 million in the state level, you only pay 8.82%. We need to do more. We can raise billions of dollars, and it's upon us to take those steps. I know my colleagues here on the city and state level will do that. These are amazing advocates. Quickly on small businesses, we have some assembly hearings coming up next week and the week after on small businesses here in New York City. It's in my newsletter. You should look at it. We really want small businesses to tell us what's happening. We did a little work a couple of weeks ago to help tenants, but we haven't really done much at all for small businesses. And we really need a plan because they can't pay their rent. They can't pay their employees. They can't pay their sales tax. They're just a mess. And if we want to lose 50 to 75% of our business, we do nothing. We want to figure out how we save our communities. We'll have to act. We're required to do that soon. Like Carlina, I testified on behalf of 24 of my colleagues seeking a rent freeze. Really important that we don't, in this moment, increase rents for rent stabilized apartments. It's outrageous to be thinking about it. Finally, Carlina and I and Brad and Dan and Ben are all out giving out PPE and giving out food. If people want to be a partake in that, we have a lot to do. There's a lot of help that people need all over our city about food insecurity and not having masks and gloves. And as we continue to reopen, we really want to be there for everyone. I'd encourage people to reach out to one of our offices, reach out to my office. You can come see my new office space on 7th Street and Avenue B. We're almost in. We have no furniture, but we actually have an office. You can always come by. You can see what we're trying to do. But whatever help you can provide, we really want to do it. Finally, on this, if I can just say things about the 48-hour rule and other issues, there's a lot to do, a lot to be done. Like I have a bill around not letting police cover their badges. They did it all the time throughout this the protest. We need to stop it and need to make it a crime. So there's lots of things to be done. And I look forward to going back into the session to do this, as well as other comprehensive work. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, everyone. Great. Be safe.
Thanks, Harvey. Any questions? I don't see any. Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Kaylos is here somewhere. There he is. Hi.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Molly.
Thank you.
And I love spending my birthdays at Community Board.
It's so much fun.
I just want to echo some of what I've heard around hashtag defund NYPD. I've been proud to come out in favor of that. We've received 90,000 emails on point. I also want to thank Carlina Rivera. She and I made the New York Post on Monday. It is an honor that we both welcome, and we're hoping that this board and every board in the city of New York and every government on the country will take a position on defund police. And as Assemblymember Epstein, I'm sure countless others explained, this is about repurposing the funds. So we're getting our police out of our schools and using police for policing, not taking care of children. I also want to thank Harvey Epstein. We did our pandemic tenants' rights town hall with, I think, every elected official on this call. It was his idea. He started it back when he was a housing attorney, and he is still a housing attorney. You can watch on Facebook. However, I will disagree with him strenuously. Today, I testified at the Rent Guidelines Board on behalf of the Progressive Caucus, my 20 or so colleagues, but I was pushing for a rent roll back. I think this is the year we should push for it. That being said, the RGB has already voted and limited their vote to a rent freeze. So if you can't get the rent roll back, we do want the rent freeze. This board can take a position in support of the rent freeze, or perhaps my preference, rent roll back. And I'm sure the assembly member agrees with pushing for a rent roll back too. We're just giving each other a hard time. As folks are starting to head back to work with phase 1 already started this week, phase 2 coming in June 20th. We have legislation that's now been endorsed by Elizabeth Warren, Introduction 1923, to provide just cause protections to our workers. And that means that when people are going back to work, and so many people are so fearful of, am I allowed to say no? Am I allowed to say, well, I can work from home? Am I allowed to ask for PPE? What happens if I ask for the wrong thing? And will they lose their jobs? That's why we need this legislation more than ever. And so that's one of the reasons we're pushing for it. Also, we've got voting. Many of you may have already voted. Anyone can vote absentee due to our joint temporary illness, because we are all being trying to avoid exposure to coronavirus. You can go to nycabsentee.com to request your absentee ballot. Starting on June 13th, in 3 days, early voting will begin. It is June 13th through June 21st. I will say there are not enough poll sites. I believe there may be 2 in CV6. And so I would ask that CV6 consider suggesting some locations to the Board of Elections. June 23rd, we will be doing it still in person. And last but not least, I know that since the beginning of this pandemic, a lot of people have been pushing and saying that folks shouldn't get tested. And as you've all have heard from me, I've been working with the hospitals in CV6 and CV8 on trying to expand access to testing throughout our city, throughout our country. It is incredibly important that everyone out there get tested. I've been tested, my family's been tested. It's provided us with an enormous peace of mind and allowed us to know where we are, whether or not anyone is asymptomatic and could be spreading it, and whether or not folks who have had it have gotten over it. Just incredibly important, and it helps improve our public health. So I just want to thank everybody on the call, and thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ben. Ann Seligman has a question.
Yes, I'm wondering, I did get an absentee ballot, and I noticed that my polling place changed, which is a little weird in itself. But is it possible, if I have an absentee ballot, can I still go vote in person? Could I go and just drop off my ballot?
Absolutely. You can vote by mail. You can bring your absentee ballot to the poll site. You can bring your absentee ballot to the Board of Elections. You can just vote in person. And what do you call it? One of the funny stories, somebody once asked me, like, I already mailed in my absentee ballot. Can I just go vote in person? The answer is yes. You will not be accused of voter fraud. They will just see that you already voted and signed in, and they will just set aside your absentee ballot.
Oh,
but do whatever makes you feel safe.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, I mailed mine in already, so I'll miss out on the actually going there. Okay, so, and we have a special guest, Council Member Mark Levine is here.
Thank you so much, Madam
Hello.
Chair.
Hi.
Happy birthday, Molly. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
And I'm only going to speak briefly on one topic in my capacity as chair of the Health Committee at a time when we are entering a new phase in our fight against this pandemic, a phase that is going to be very challenging in ways I don't think the public totally understands. And of course, we're doing this at a moment of long overdue reckoning with systemic racism in our policing. And in fact, racism has driven great inequality in the pandemic as well. And that only adds urgency to the need to contain this as we go forward. And I know that probably most of you and most of New Yorkers are really ready to be done with coronavirus. you probably are done with coronavirus. The truth is, however, that coronavirus is not done with us. We still have over 300 new diagnosed cases every day in New York City, and this virus is still out there. We're going to have to work hard to prevent a rebound that we have seen now in almost every place in America that's reopened, and really almost every country around the world. To do that, we've got to build what is really a whole new public health system of contact tracing, driven by wide testing and quarantining and isolating. And while we have started this effort in the last 10 days, we are really far behind, and we need your help as leaders to fix that. Beginning about 10 days ago now, everybody who's got a positive test result for COVID-19 is getting a call from contact tracers who are asking about, well, first, are they okay? And secondly, trying to find out who you've been in close contact with in your household, in your workplace, in another setting, so that we can reach out to those folks who might not even know they've been exposed yet and ensure that they quarantine. This is the basic idea behind contact tracing, which we've used in New York in many past epidemics with enormous success, and which has been used around the world during the COVID-19 pandemic, also to great success, from Tokyo to Seoul to Berlin. The problem is that very few New Yorkers know that this program is underway, and even fewer, I think, understand what it's all about. And we're just not meeting our goals yet. We need more people to get tested. We have so much more testing capacity than we had 2 months ago, probably by a factor of 50 or approaching 100. And so now there really is capacity, and anyone, regardless of whether they have symptoms, can get tested. If you get a call from a contact tracer, we need you to do the interview. Your privacy will be protected, and your anonymity will be protected. No one will be told that you may have been the person who would have spread the virus to them. Your name will not be shared. And if you are sick, you need to isolate. And in fact, the city can offer a hotel to do that. Now, if you live in a crowded apartment, as most of us do in Manhattan, it can be dangerous for particularly vulnerable people in your home. City will offer you a hotel to isolate for free with food and medication and even laundry. That too is being undersubscribed because few people know about the option. Got to let them know about that. And if a contact tracer calls you and tells you you've been exposed, you need to quarantine. That means stay at home, really stay at home. This is a big deal. Don't leave for anything other than a medical emergency. City will help you with food at your door, medication, laundry, again. Too few people are doing this. We need a campaign comparable to what you all have done for the census, to tell the public that they need to participate in this new phase of our fight against the coronavirus. It needs to be communicated to everybody, frankly, with city support, with city funding, through community-based organizations, through advertising. We need much, much more of that. But I wanted to reach out to you as leaders to be ambassadors here in the East Side on the community board, to get the word out about the imperative of beating back this virus. We're not done this fight yet. We got a lot of more work to do. Let's avoid a rebound by doing the work now to keep us safe. Thank you again, Madam Chair, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
For a few minutes tonight.
Thank you. Good to see you. All right. Thanks, Mark. So we are joined by Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. She's
Thank you, Molly.
Hi.
How are you? I'll be very quick because you have lots of business. So I'm just going to talk about a few things that have relevant, I hope, to the community board. And first of all, thank you, everybody, for all the things that you're doing. So within the restaurant world, obviously opening up second phase, but getting started. We're working really hard, as you are, on this open streets, open space, etc. And I know I'm on the governor's recovery task force with the other borough presidents and labor and people in the business community. And tomorrow we're talking with the SLA chair and staff, because as you know, if you're serving and it's not next to the building, then that alcohol is delivery is going to get you in trouble. You're supposed to serve right next to the building where the restaurant is. We're going to have to, really work hard. And I know you're doing the same to get these mom and pop restaurants able to survive. So obviously the issue of open space, I just came from a Zoom discussion with all the restaurants in Harlem, and they're trying also to figure this out. So I just let us know in our office how you think is going to work for some of the restaurants and spaces that might be available. That's number one. The second thing, just in terms of retail, I think it's still hard for some of the smaller, but the people are being very innovative. And again, if there are issues, I'd love to know about it. I was just on a call. I thought this was interesting, and it's just problems crop up. So earlier today, the construction industry complained that the PPE, meaning the temperature taking, the testing and so on, was going to cost them a lot. And I always figure you make a lot of money doing that, so hopefully it'll work out. But then just was on a call with dentists, like family, small practice dentists. They're open June 1st. And of course they're swamped because people didn't go to the dentist for a long time, and they have major challenges dentistry wise. So guess what? Her PPE in this particular case, 3 layers, boots, basically coverings for the patient and the doctor, all of the shield, gloves and so on. It's somewhere between $25 to $35 per patient per day in terms of the cost of the PPE. And she's getting reimbursed from some of the private insurance companies, $10 per patient. And so I just want to bring this to your attention because I have a feeling you're going to hear about this from the businesses and others, something we hadn't thought about. And it's a challenge when you have a small enterprise and nobody's covering it. So FYI, that was awakening, because now 2 people, 2 completely different industries today are looking at how to absorb that issue. In terms of the summer, we're going to have 178,000 summer school students. And I worry, if you didn't have a good experience during the year, what makes it any better during the summer? So, there may be a committee that wants to work on that. I'm trying to get the JCC in Manhattan to help. They have 200 volunteers ready to go. So we're trying to set them up with the executive superintendent is working with us to help with the students who need the most help. But you should just know that's going to be a challenge. And I want to say in another call today, there was a discussion, I think correctly, that the subways are cleaned, much thanks to the MTA. I saw that myself. So then the next issue is, will the schools be clean and will they be able to open? So I think that's the next challenge. It's a big one. September is right around the corner. The general feeling, I have no facts, is that it will be blended learning. So that means home and school. And that means 49%. I'm making up what I heard, a number of percentage, I could be off, in school, or 49% out of school, 50-50. And how does that look? And what does it look like for the schools in your area? And how do you have some input working with your CEC? So, and how does that work with the custodians who are going to have to clean constantly? So that's another huge challenge, just one more. In terms of the food issues, they're ongoing. We had about 1.1 million who were food insecure before the pandemic, and now it's 2.2. And we're all working. We obviously work with the seniors, trying to make sure that the 311 works, and does the senior center have what it needs. It's pretty much ongoing. Every summer we've always had with Roosevelt Island and with you and with all of the senior centers, the fresh fruits and vegetables for seniors, $8 a bag. So we're trying to figure out, can we do that again? Because I have to say that is a very popular program. So we're working on that to try to make it happen. I don't know if we can. The housing issues are obviously real also. We know that either July 1st or September 1st, it's going to be hopefully not a challenge at 111 Center Street. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't. Just going back to the summer for a minute on summer camps, the governor has put out guidelines and camps can start June 29th, but the city doesn't have any permits possible in the parks. Now I know Board 6 is not got tons of parks. That's unfortunate. I'm very aware of that. But kids go to parks from the camps. And the issue is we have to get the mayor to have some kind of a strategy for camps in the parks. Right now, we don't have it. So just so you know, we're all focused on that and all the camps are calling us. We all protested and I have to give so many people credit. So I did, you did. What we are doing, it was my suggestion to the mayor, he can take credit, but I did along with Gwen Carr, suggested that we do as the Washington DC mayor did, do Black Lives Matter painted. So the announcement, as I understand it, is there'll be one per borough. And so they want to do it in the Civic Center. So we'd already suggested doing it on Center Street, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll let you know. There's a wonderful group of Black architects and land use, and we've been in touch with Hawk Newsom, who's head of Black Lives Matter in New York, and everybody's working together on doing that. So that's our small piece that we're going to play. So that's sort of what I wanted to share. I know that to the credit of the Assembly, the Senate, and the City Council and Congress, at least on the House side, everybody is passing legislation. I do want to thank Chief Hughes, who is the Manhattan South, because he really did take calls, try to be responsive. There were some incidents, but he was trying to be responsive. I know I talked to Councilmember Power several times during the worst of the police officers' actions, and we tried to make sure that it didn't happen again. We're all working on trying to get more buses and bus lanes, because I think even though the subways are clean and people should want to go there, people are still going to stick. And please don't drive into Manhattan. And please, if you have to take a bus, do not get your car. So those are some issues that we're working on. And thank you, Board 6, for being so fabulous. Thank you, Gail.
That's a lot. There's a lot going on, right? It's a lot of work to do. All right, so let's see. I think, we have Brees Pear from a State Assembly Member Godfrey's office. Brees, are you? Okay, hi there.
Thank you and happy birthday, Molly. Been a busy time since the borough president just talked about buses. I'll pick right up with that. The mayor did announce this week that the 14th Street busway is being made permanent and that they are putting in kind of by fiat a Fifth Avenue busway between 34th and 57th Streets. Assemblymember Godfrey's initiated a letter. We're asking local electeds to sign on, simply saying, the busway has been a great success on 14th Street, but we would like the city to honor the commitments it made when it said it would be an 18-month pilot project, including consultation with the local communities, air monitoring, studies, and just safety and traffic mitigation measures where needed. We don't think this should just be the end of the discussion on 14th Street. So Community Board 6 will be getting CC'd on that. We're also initiating a letter on the Fifth Avenue busway. That's been done on a temporary basis every holiday season, not as long as this route. We think it's got great potential to improve safety and improve pedestrian and vehicular traffic flow, or bus travel rather. But again, community groups, BIDs, neighborhood associations need to be consulted. So we're initiating both of those. We hope to get those out in the next couple days. Won't go over all the law enforcement stuff, except to note that Assemblymember Godfrey derived a particular personal degree of satisfaction. He cast one of the very few votes against enacting Section 50A of the Civil Rights Law, which has shielded police officers' disciplinary records from public view, unlike virtually every other sector of public employees. It was a bad law in 1976 when he voted against it. Time has proven that out. He was really, really great degree of satisfaction in repealing it last night, something we expect the governor now to sign now that the Senate has also approved it. As chair of the Health Committee, he's introduced legislation to ensure that contact tracing on COVID will be shielded with the strictest confidentiality from law enforcement and immigration authorities. We don't think testing is going to work in a lot of communities if people don't have assurances that their medical information and other contact information is going to be kept private from authorities that could be out to prosecute them. He's also, as chair of the health committee, following up on state water quality standards. The state health department had already issued measurable levels that it deemed acceptable for certain contaminants in water above which that water would not be drinkable. Those have already been set. All that needs to be done is to codify those regulations. But citing the COVID pandemic, the health department's dragging its feet on that. We don't think there's any need to postpone that anymore. And so he's urging them to move on that quickly. And then finally, he's following up on an issue he's been working on a long time ago, which is nursing home quality and health care. It's been disastrous during the COVID pandemic, the thousands literally of patients who have died in nursing homes in New York State. But even long preceding that, he has been trying to prod the health department to increase staffing levels and the quality of care in nursing homes, which is really subpar in New York State. We will be reporting back to you in the future on that. And I will stop now under 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Brees. All right, so we have Sarah Newman from Councilmember Powers' office.
Sure, yeah, I know we're running a little behind, so I will keep it to just 2 quick items. First, as Councilmember Rivera mentioned, the council is in the process of negotiating the budget. Councilmember Powers is a member of the budget negotiating team, so he's been very engaged in that process and will continue to be for the next few weeks. And that's been very much informed by discussions in the past few weeks about policing and the need for significant changes. So Councilmember Powers is very supportive of making meaningful cuts to the NYPD to better balance those priorities, make sure enough money is going towards social services, affordable housing, education. We've gotten a lot of feedback from constituents over the past few weeks about these issues, so really appreciate all the feedback we've been getting. Second item, I know that later tonight you will be hearing from some restaurant owners and considering a resolution in support of outdoor dining on city streets. I know your resolution specifically suggests a few locations, including one on 2nd Ave between 50th and 51st Streets that was brought to you and to our office as well by some restaurant owners in that area. These restaurant owners have been very proactive in their efforts, have really engaged with our office, with you guys. So just wanted to voice our support for that. We've asked DOT and the mayor's office to take a look at this location as well as a potential space for outdoor dining, see if there's something that could work there. So hope that you'll be supportive of that resolution as well.
Sarah, you're awesome. I like your speed talking. A lot of good information, but it's very awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good to see you. All right, so then we have, sorry, I lost my list. Taylor from Congresswoman Maloney's office. Taylor, I know you didn't necessarily sign up, but would you want to speak?
Yeah, I meant to, and we had so many things.
No problem. Oh, no problem.
Hi, but I'll try and speed through. We've also been super busy with everything going on. Want to thank the state and city electeds for what they've been doing. We've been trying to do a lot in the federal level, which includes signing on to HR 988, condemning all acts of police brutality, HR 125, Police Training and Independent Review Act, HR 119, National Statistics on Deadly Force Transparency Act, HR 1636, the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys, the Unqualified Immunity Act, Peace Act, the Journalist Protection Act, Protect Act, and a bunch more, which can be found on our website under the Issues section. The Congresswoman also joined her colleagues in a letter to AG Barr demanding identification of unknown law enforcement that was used in DC, and also on a letter urging Barr to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate the use of force against peaceful protesters. Throughout the past month, Congresswoman Maloney has also been working on pandemic response, including legislation for pandemic risk insurance, as well as a compensation fund for essential workers modeled after her work on the BCF. In her role as oversight chair, she's been holding hearings and briefings in relation to the firing of inspectors general, surveillance and treatment of protesters, and a variety of issues related to the pandemic. I'm sure I am skipping some things, but all of our recent work can be found on the Congresswoman's website at maloney.house.gov, on the committee website at oversight.house.gov, as well as in our newsletter. And as always, people can reach me with other questions, either my email, the office phone number, or the ny12urgent@mail.house.gov email. If anyone has questions, let me know.
Great. Thanks, Taylor. Okay, so we have Madeline's joined us from Senator Kruger's office.
Hi, CV6. It's Madeline from Senator Kruger's office. As has been mentioned, Senator Kruger was in Albany this week, passing the package of legislation to address the issues that have brought thousands of New Yorkers to the streets over the past few weeks. Senator Kruger and our entire team at this point continue to work tirelessly on helping people obtain their unemployment benefits. If you're still having trouble with that, feel free to reach out to our office, or if you know people who are. Senator Kruger was on a call earlier this week with Commissioner Reardon, the Commissioner of the Department of Labor, to talk through many of the issues that remain. The last thing is Senator Kruger is hosting another virtual town hall tomorrow, Thursday evening at 7 o'clock on Facebook about reopening. That is all. Thank you.
Oh.
Happy birthday, Molly.
Thank you. Thanks, Madeline. Good to see you. All right. And we have Kevin Jean-Baptiste from the Cy Vance's office, the DA's office. I don't know if Kevin, I have him on my sign up. I don't know if he's still on the line. Okay, let's go to Luke Wolf from Comptroller Scott Stringer's office.
Hi, everybody. I'm Luke. I'm from Comptroller Stringer's office. I will try to keep this brief. But right now, there are kind of three overlapping crises facing our city. The first is the COVID pandemic. The second is the economic crisis. The third is the disproportionate impact of policing on our communities of color. And all of those are very interrelated. But I'll briefly touch upon what we're doing in each of those categories. The first on the police and what's going on in our city this past week or two. We know that there needs to be changes in how the police operate in our city, and part of that is the NYPD's budget. So we have laid out a roadmap to cut $1 billion from the budget for the NYPD, and are calling on the mayor and the city council to take up that recommendation and take that money and shift it into investing in communities that have been disproportionately impacted, and really starting to change the relationship between police and those communities in the city. We have also called on the mayor to transfer who gives out press credentials. Currently, they're giving out by the NYPD, and we don't think they're remain the best people to be determining who does not have press passes. On the economic front, as has been referenced, we are facing an about $9 billion budget gap on the city level, and we do need federal support. But one of the things we can do right now to help kickstart our economy is to unpause the capital spending. So right now, capital spending at the city level is largely on pause. And we believe now is the time to start investing in schools, theaters, affordable housing, and other projects. It is the best job multiplier, and we don't think it's prudent to stop investing right now when we do need to kickstart the economy and get us going again. And lastly, on the COVID front, one thing we're still focused on is food access. About 30% of the city's food pantries have ceased operations during the pandemic, and we still have a lot of ongoing concerns about the quality, diversity of food options available. So we wrote a letter with the public advocate, Jumani Williams, to Catherine Garcia, the food czar, with specific recommendations on how to improve the food program to make sure that everyone has access to healthy and quality food during the pandemic. One other thing we're pushing for is additional data on the antibody testing that's being done, so we know where exactly the issues are, who is being most affected, so we're best prepared and we can move quickly to address that, and no matter what community it happens in New York.
Great. All right. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. All right. So Kevin, I think we have Kevin back.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep. Hi.
Great. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all.
Good to see
I'm
you.
Kevin Jean-Baptiste from Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr.'s office. I did want to just provide very quick updates. I know we're running late on time. So one of the things that the office has really been paying attention to as of late is police misconduct since the protests began. Our office has always looked into police misconduct and those types of cases and have our public corruption unit to that matter. But now we've established a contact line where folks can go on our office website page on the Contact Us page, and they can type in if they've witnessed an incident or if they've been a victim of an incident of police misconduct since the protests began. We've established a team of analysts and paralegals that are going through social media, speaking with various folks that were at protests, and determining whether there was some misconduct that happened at a particular protest, and having the office look further into those cases. So that's something that I would like to share with everyone and encourage people to continue to report those types of things if you are aware of them. The second thing is the district attorney just recently mentioned that we will no longer be prosecuting any protesters, any peaceful protesters. So those that have been charged with disorderly conduct or unlawful assembly, all of those cases will not be, we will decline to prosecute any of those cases that come to our office. And the last thing that I wanted to mention was that since the pandemic began, the office has been paying attention to sort of the crime trends as we always do, and notice that domestic violence has been on a decrease, particularly in Manhattan South more than Manhattan North. So we created a long list of COVID-19 resources with various domestic violence agencies that our office has worked with. We understand that many people are not always comfortable with going to law enforcement for services, and these organizations specialize in working with people and keeping their information secured. So I would love to continue to share that. I did share it with every community board district manager, and I'd like to share that with the chair people and as well as the group to see if we can get the word out furthermore on that. And that's the updates I have. And happy birthday, Molly.
Thank you. And we do have a couple questions. Let's see, Brian had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. So the council members Lander and Powers went to the detention complex over the weekend, and there were reports that there has been a backlog in processing for people who had been detained by the police, and that some had been there more than 24 hours. There was a ruling in state court that habeas corpus was suspended. I want to know how the district attorney's actions or future progress might affect getting those people out of the detention complex.
Thanks for the question, Brian. I think the office has really shifted the way we've managed and worked things since COVID. 98% of the work of the office is working remotely, and a lot of the misdemeanor and violation cases, those folks are getting DATs and going home. The ones that are staying overnight or over the 24-hour period are probably the ones that are charged with more serious crimes and felonies. And our office has been mindful of those folks and in trying to get their cases heard. So since COVID, we no longer have grand juries, so we can't assemble those folks to be able to get the cases through quickly. What we've been doing is the hearings where you have an assistant district attorney presenting the evidence directly to a judge, and the judge determining whether those cases should move forward if we have the evidence of felony. And obviously that may not move as quickly as a grand jury because you'll have several grand juries and we're bringing cases one after the other to them. Now it's a select few of ADAs that are bringing these cases to a judge. In terms of moving these cases forward as quickly as possible, that's the steps that we have right now in terms of what we're capable of doing because of COVID. And the office is hoping that as we continue working remotely, we can ramp up the number of the ADAs that are allowed to be able to present these cases to the judges. Particularly to your case, I'm not sure of the exact number of people that are being held. I know the majority of the arrests that came in were misdemeanors and DATs, people that are going to have their cases heard later on, maybe September or August. It's not, from my understanding, it's not too many that we have that are remaining behind, but I do want to be mindful that if there are a select few that you're aware of, I want to bring that to the attention of the DA and see if there's any other efforts that we're engaged in to move those cases forward.
Okay, maybe we could follow up offline. You could, if you have more information, Brian, or vice versa, you guys can connect. And then Dan Devine.
Yeah, thank you, Molly, and happy birthday. Kevin, thanks a lot. I just had a quick question. I mean, obviously there's been like wholesale looting throughout the city, and there's been a lot of reports about it potentially being connected to street gangs and organized crime really throughout many different cities. But what types of things are being done to kind of investigate that, especially when it seems there are reports around kind of a very specific mentality about figuring out how to loot, when to loot, what to what to be doing. And obviously with so much video evidence, it seems like it might be easier than ever when people are driving away from, luxury boutiques with a lot of cameras. So what are you guys doing just to make sure that that's something that's going to be prosecuted and then that really won't be able to happen again?
So some of those cases, particularly the ones that are much more larger, where there's much more a large quantity or number of dollars of merchandise that was stolen, the office is using a lot of tools to try to get the as much evidence and information as we can, using video evidence, using testimonies from police officers if they were able to witness it. And a lot of these folks are sort of being caught after the fact, because it takes a lot of investigation to be able to trace and use a paper trail to try to get the folks that are involved in the looting. From what we understand, it's at first looking at it, the first couple of days of looting, majority of the people were not from Manhattan, and in the days after, it seemed more of our people were getting involved in it. But the office has been continuously using social media, using video evidence, and the tools that we've always continued to use to investigate almost every case. And video evidence is extremely helpful in this day and age to help figure out evidence and prosecute cases. So that's our main thing when we're looking for evidence, is the video.
Yeah, my friend bought a $10,000 camera for $3,000 on Craigslist by somebody who said they were shooting a video prior to COVID and it was shut down. But of course, it was a still camera, and you don't shoot a movie with a still camera. So there seems to be a lot of evidence out there.
Yeah.
Oops.
We're scouting the social media pages, the Craigslist pages. We're looking at as much video and as much internet data that we can find.
Great. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank
all right.
you.
So good to see you. So we have Phil Ellison from the Public Advocate's Office. Phil, are you on the line? I know we're going long here. Okay, I'm going to move on to Andrew Kunkus from the Mayor's Office, Community Affairs.
Hey Molly, happy birthday.
Hi.
And thank you so much for having me on Community Board 6 full board meeting. I just want to let you guys know that the mayor announced that we will be expanding the New York City care, and we will be looking to reach an additional 54,000 residents, 10,000 of which will be in Manhattan. And we're hoping to get those services out in the coming weeks. We want to remind everyone that alternate side parking is suspended through Sunday, June 21st. Parking meters and all other parking rules remain in effect. And I want to encourage everybody, if they have not done so, once again, to request an absentee ballot for the June 23rd election. You can do so until June 16th. And I will provide a link in the chat. And one last thing, New York City was the first city to set up a COVID-19 pet owner hotline. It is available 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it has recently received an award from PETA for their commitment to animals during the COVID-19 crisis. But I want to say a personal thank you to Community Board 6 for your commitment during this time, because it has really been unparalleled, and we would not be able to help get services to those most in need without you. Thank you so much, and continue your hard work.
Thank you, Andrew. I think we don't have Phil, so we'll go into the two public members. We have Jolie Golden from the U.S. Census joining us. Jolie, I think.
Great.
Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Hi.
And Molly, everyone, nice to meet you. I'm familiar with Community Board 8. Now I will become very familiar with Community Board 6. So I'm a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau, and I'm here to give you a brief update that we are continuing to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place, where people live most often. I'm highlighting this because we have lots of New Yorkers who are currently temporarily relocated. Whether they stayed in Palm Beach, they went to live with a relative, they're out in the Hamptons, we want to make sure that they are counted in New York City at their CB6 address. One way to avoid those cuts being so painful that people are talking about with the budget is to make sure for the next 10 years that we get every penny of federal funding that we deserve. And that means everyone needs to be counted in their household in New York City. If people submitted the form for somewhere else, they can resubmit using their New York City address, and we will deduplicate those files. In terms of how we're doing in New York City, and thanks to everyone for all of their efforts, we are at 56.1% in New York State, which is very important because that funding is distributed across the states, and we are at 53.2% in Manhattan. The national average is 60.8% for self-response. So the good news is that we can roll up our sleeves and really improve things. 2 dates that are super important. August 11th is when we start knocking on doors. So if your friends and your neighbors and your parents don't want us to knock on their door, they just have to respond either by phone, online, or by mail. It's super easy. October 31st is the last day to respond to the census. So Halloween, we're done taking responses. In terms of how CB6 is doing, the tracks to pay attention to, Stuytown, Peter Cooper Village is crushing it. They are at 74.2%, 13% above the national average. In Tudor City, we could use some help. So anyone who's connected to buildings there, I'm happy to have a separate conversation with anyone who's interested. Also, East 35th to East 42nd Street is definitely low in terms of response, and the East 50s could also use some help. So tell your neighbor, tell your mom, tell your friends, tell your co-op board and your real estate management company to put in census messaging. I'm happy to provide it to everyone, and we really need your help, and we want you to be counted. So thank you.
Thank you, Jolie. That's my neighborhood. So the 35th to Tudor City. So like the problem areas, I hate to hear that. All right. Yeah, please come back and keep us posted. And we have another public member, sorry, Brian Owens. Brian.
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi. Yep, hi.
Great, thank you. So my name is Brian Owens. I'm the owner of Crave Fish Bar and Taco Vision, located on East 50th and 2nd Avenue. I'm also the co-founder of the Restaurant Row East Alliance, and we represent 13 restaurants on our one block. We approached the Business Affairs and Street Activities Committee for support and guidance through the COVID pandemic, which has led to really unprecedented economic devastation for many industries, including hospitality. One of the ideas we formulated, which has now been introduced by City Council, is temporary closure of certain streets in a district. And that's to allow for the outdoor dining. This should be a temporary measure that would expire in October to provide retail and restaurants with the opportunity to generate enough revenue to get us to next year. Current social distancing guidelines were just released yesterday for phase 3. And the idea is that by losing so much money in the interior of our spaces, we could bring those seats to the outside and help generate more revenue, because we know at even 50%, we're all losing money. So the idea of the delivery and takeout, barely allows us to even break even. Most are not even paying rent during that time. And, increasing the outdoor capacity would be better economically. It's safer and allow us to rehire staff faster. Prior to COVID, all of our businesses on this single block employed around 600 people. So it's has a big impact to employment on just this one single high density block. So since our block consists of 92% of restaurants, we would like to serve as a pilot for this idea. We have community support. We have BASA and transportation have endorsed the idea. We now ask for the full board for your consideration and endorsement to help save the small businesses in our neighborhood. And I hope that was quick enough, and I appreciate the time, and I loved hearing from all of our elected officials and everyone else this evening.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you hanging in there and staying on the call. All right, so let's move into business session. Oh, do we have any other public speakers? I don't know if there's anyone. I was corrected.
We do
It's not public member, it's member of the public. So that's, you know, the clarification there. They're
That's
two
all. That's all we
very
have.
different things. Okay, let's move into business session. And the first item is to adopt the May full board meeting minutes. And I know you all received that in the last few days. So seeing no objections, no hands raised, we will adopt those minutes. And my chair's report will just be two things. We're finishing, you know, this is our last meeting until September. So you have 2 months off. I know there's still a lot of work to do, but so if for the new members, maybe you didn't know, but we take July and August off for full board and most committees. But also, since it is the last meeting until the fall, we will go into its elections time in the fall in October. So I've appointed an elections committee chair, Rick Eggers, our former board chair. So Rick, I don't know if can you just maybe give us a few quick next steps for the elections committee and maybe who you've appointed.
Oh, sure. Did the office have anything they wanted to do right now? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I do.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, Molly.
Oh,
I know
is
you
so
can't
nice.
enjoy it, but I can.
What?
So it's all
That
good.
doesn't sound right.
You can blow on it. It's kind of like one of those candles that won't go out, but it.
Make a wish.
I just did. I did.
See if
Thanks,
you can
bud.
do it in sync. Do it in sync. Molly,
Ready?
you blow and Rick, you.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday
Ah!
to
Yay.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Thank you, Rick. That's really nice. Thank you, everybody. It is kind of fun to be on the call with all of you. So I don't know, Rick, do you want to?
Yeah, just real quickly, the elections committee, Molly has appointed Jean D'Onofrio, Raj Nayar, Joan Berenbaum, Kevin O'Keefe, and me to be on the committee. Our job is really more like being supervisors of the election. We will collect the nominations in the next period of time, and we'll deal with the elections, which actually don't happen until October. So what's happening now is if you are interested in being the chair of the board, first vice chair, second vice chair, treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, or assistant secretary, you must notify the Committee of Elections by Wednesday, July 8. This is determined by the bylaws. Everyone interested should submit their name, including people who are currently officers, if they wish to continue in that office. It's a competitive election every year. There are only a few people who are not eligible to have an office. The members of the election committee may not run for an office in the year in which they serve. Molly has reached her 3-year term limit, so she will not be running for chair of the board. And that's pretty much it as far as I can remember right now.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Rick,
there are no term limits on any other officer positions.
Rick, would you like anyone interested to email you or to email the office?
I would like the people who are interested to email me at rick.eggers, that's EGGERS, at cbsix.org. rick.eggers at cbsix.org. If you don't get that, I'll ask the board office to include it in their reminders of events coming up, upcoming events that they send out every week, if that would be okay. And then we'll make sure that everybody is reminded before July 8 that the deadline is coming to a close. After the 8th, the committee will get together, put together a slate of those people who have put their names forward. And then you'll have one more opportunity in September to do a self-nomination if if you get the last minute decision that you want to run.
Okay, good. And Rick, Ann has a question. I don't know if it's for the office or for Rick or me.
No, it's for
Yeah.
Rick, and it's just about the process. So in emails that go to you, they could be either self-nominations or nominations of somebody else for a position. Is that correct?
They could be. The person who is being nominated would have to confirm their willingness to run and serve.
Okay. So the emails to you should mostly be for somebody saying, yes, I'm standing for this position.
Yeah, pretty much self-nomination would be the best way to go. And
Okay.
we just need your name and contact information and the office that you would like to run for.
So if there's somebody I think should do it, I should talk them into it.
Pressure them, yes.
Yes.
Oh, and I just wanted to, one quick thing is a couple of years ago, there was a confusion. Committee chairs are not up for election. Committee chairs are appointed by the board chair. So we're not talking about, if you're interested in being a chair of a committee or a vice chair, this is not the time. You can talk to the current board chair, you can talk to the next board chair, you can talk to anybody if you're interested in getting to that kind of position.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Rick.
Okay.
Okay, and that's it for my chair's report. Jesus Perez, district manager's report.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting tonight. I want to encourage all board members to seek out help with the office on Zoom matters if you need such help. Recently, we noticed a couple of board members who seemed to have some difficulty with Zoom, and the office reached out to them to see if they wanted some personalized help, and they took us up on that offer. And Brendan led a personalized training for the two members that went very well. So we're happy to take the time for personalized help. So if you're worried that you missed the initial trainings that Cody did so very, very well, or you still have lingering questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We want everyone to have a really good experience on Zoom, and we're happy to make ourselves available to help achieve that. CB6 is proud to co-sponsor with CB8 a series of webinars called Restarting Our Neighborhood, and these webinars are geared toward local business owners and managers and deal with topics that will be particularly relevant to them as they begin the process of reopening their businesses. Last week's webinar on health and safety in the workplace was a success, and the next webinar is on Thursday, June 18. It will cover HR and legal topics that are related to business reopenings. So the save the date is already on the CB6 community events page right now. So you can just go to cbsix.org and click events, and you will see the initial
We got it
information.
for now as the district manager. But we're almost
all right, that's and finally, I'd like to close with, perhaps you all read about this in the most recent edition of our newsletter, but for those of you who missed it, at a meeting of the CB6 Housing, Homeless, and Human Rights Committee, which took place at one of our district's NYCHA public housing complexes, the president of the Tenant Association, 344 East 28th Street Tenants Association, asked CB6 for help removing a pair of phone booths just outside their building. She explained to the committee that the phone booths were frequently the scenes of unseemly activity, that they negatively impacted the quality of life of their residents and contributed to an unsafe environment for the neighborhood and the building as a whole. CB6 worked with our sister agencies, the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, more oftenly known as Do It, and our local police precinct to cut through the red tape and expedite the removal of these phone booths. So. But that's it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesus. Brian, treasurer's report.
Most of my report was submitted to the secretary, so the details will be in the minutes. I'm just going to go over a couple of items. Our rent is okay. Our personal services budget is okay. Our street fair money is still 110, 185, and our remaining uncommitted balance of other than personal services is $3,100 at the moment. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Brian. And then since we had the borough president here, I don't know if she's still here. I think Brian Lafferty may be on the line, but I think Brian.
He's waived his report.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going into the committee business, and let me just make sure I'm doing everything. I know we have our virtual ballots. So I just want to be sure I'm not missing anything here.
We're going to post
think-
the link to that in the chat right now.
I think there are a few people that are unable to do the virtual ballot, but otherwise I think it went very smoothly last time. Everyone seemed to agree. So there are several resolutions, not immediately, but as we move forward, we'll kind of go through the rules there. But we'll start with the committee, the 197A working group committee. Kavitha Matthew, chair.
Yeah, hello. I don't have a big report. I just wanted to update everyone, let them know we met last week as a group, and we're able to quickly review the final report from our consultant about MSBI development on that site. And it was a little bit short notice for the committee to be able to digest the report. So we are meeting again. I think we've set the meeting for the 29th of this month. So we're meeting one more time before we break for the summer, but otherwise everything is progressing smoothly. We've also looked at street remapping, and we'll report back on that after probably our next meeting in the fall.
Thank you. Great work, Kavitha. There's a lot to be done there. All right, John Keller, Chair of Health and Education.
Yeah, I'll waive this report in favor of a joint report with the Homeless Committee, other than to note that after listening to Council Members Traeger and Rivera and others, clearly we will have a robust agenda in the fall, especially from the health perspective.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so thank you, John. Corinne Vanderdonk, Chair of the Housing, Homeless, and Human Rights Committee, they've worked together, John and Corinne, on a resolution, but I'll let you lead, Corinne. Everyone should have the link in the chat box for the full board ballot to vote. If you don't, maybe raise your hand, or if you are having issues. I know Charles is by phone, but I'm not sure.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay, so we'll take your vote as we get to that, but I guess Corinne, take it away, and we'll
Thank you, Molly.
forward.
So this is a resolution to encourage that the program that was started to ensure that all students in New York City have access to both a device and to Wi-Fi, that this initiative continues after we're all the students are back in school. This is very specifically for unhoused students in the public school system. The groundwork was laid. There was partnerships made with private companies to make this happen, and I believe that it makes total sense to just simply continue it. As it says in the reso, students need to have access to the internet in this day and age to be able to flourish and to become productive members of society later on.
Are there any questions? Do we have any?
Like Anne Seligman would like the floor.
I also think John wanted to just speak to it for a minute as well.
Yeah, I'll just speak very briefly that this resolution, obviously the remote learning brought to light the many issues in the digital divide in our city, which frequently exist along socioeconomic and racial and ethnic lines. And this is going to be an ongoing concern for all of us involved in education as we move forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anne?
I had a couple of suggestions that I thought might make this actually even stronger. One is that, this is an idea that's really consistent with the whole, reimagining education that Governor Cuomo has been talking about. So I thought it might be valuable to add a whereas, basically just saying like this is consistent, with that effort, and that might help even more. And I also thought we should add a resolve. I would like to see a resolve that internet providers and other suppliers who are really actually doing pretty well during this time that's pretty tough for a lot of people should continue to offer free or discounted services, whether those services are offered through government agencies or directly to individuals. So I'd really love to see resolved that calls on them to support this, as well as just sort of saying like the government should do this. And maybe even to add a resolve too, like right here, we're not asking the state to do it. We're really kind of calling on our local government, and maybe we should expand the call for that. So those are my thoughts. Friendly amendments all.
Those are definitely good suggestions. I would like to just kind of keep it as it is right now, and then maybe we can build on it in September.
Yeah, I would agree with that. First of all, they are good suggestions, and they're taken in the friendly vein in which they were offered. This is an issue that's not going away, and it's certainly one we'll be dealing with at another time. But
is there a second for Ann's amendment? Okay, we can. They're hearing no second. Let's we can create another resolution at the state level, and with those additional comments, and just keep working and fine tuning. I think it will continue to be an issue, and there'll be. Oh yeah.
Excuse me, Molly. I'm sorry. This is Ronnie. I second Ann's suggestion.
Okay, so what we need to do is vote on. Well, I wonder is there a way that you could type it in? No, I don't know. I was going to say if there's a way we can, because that was a lot. Those were several. You're on mute.
I do have some language that was just sort of quick and dirty stuff that I could put, but if the committee is more comfortable holding on to this, I agree. It's not an issue that's going away. I'm concerned though that it's important to maintain the momentum of making if once it goes away, I think it'll be harder to bring it back, is my concern.
Right. Anne, if you have the language, would it be okay if she could type it into chat, Molly? Is that procedure allowed?
No one else can see it. I guess if you read it, we can all see it, and then you've read it out loud. We can read it out loud one more time.
Okay, it's not easy? Pretty. It's sort of notes, but I mean, it has the sense of it.
There were three different items.
Yeah, and I can stick those in there right now.
Okay.
I mean, again, they're not gorgeous, but they're, it has. I think it has the sense of it.
We can fix. It was seconded. We have to take a vote on the amendment, but if we could just see it.
So it would be therefore be it resolved. We continue to encourage public and private partnerships, and that this program will also expand into state level.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
and I think like putting the thing that it's consistent with the Reimagining Education Initiative helps us get support for it at the state level.
Okay.
And I guess we don't need it if it's a friendly.
Whereas.
Okay, and then are there others?
No, it was those three. I know that they're not bulleted there, but.
No.
Yeah,
okay,
I would accept them as friendly amendments.
Okay, if it's a friendly amendment and we did have a second, we can just vote on the resolution as amended. So I'm not sure how we do that with the virtual. Will the office note that it's supporting free and easy internet access to New York City homeless students upon return of in-person school attendance as amended. And so
Just still select everything as if you were voting pre-amendment, and we will note it that it was as amended.
thank you. Thank you. Okay. And you have a report, Corinne?
I am waiving my report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. We were on track earlier. Now we're like so off track. All right. So you are still on deck, Corinne, for a joint resolution with the Ad Hoc Budget Committee, Brian Van Nieuwenhoven, chair, for a few resolutions. So I'll let you and Brian
Yes,
take it over.
I would like to, the first one is the, is 5A, the 2021 Police Department budget. And I would like, if Brian can defend that particular reso. Yes, since he's the main author. That's okay.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Brian, unmute yourself.
I am muted. Thank you, everyone. The mayor's executive budget came out in June and in April, nearly 2 months ago. And a lot of people had noticed at the time the balance of cuts, that the mayor's financial plan implemented steep cuts to some programs and agencies that we consider to provide crucial services, and that the mayor conspicuously left a very big, very highly funded agency with no cuts whatsoever. None of what had happened with the protests and with the national mood had happened at that point, and there were still a lot of civic questions about whether that was the right direction to go in. So we evaluated the issue from a budgetary standpoint. The resolution that we produced, particularly the resolve part, does not touch on police department policy or police department structure in the distant future. Merely addresses what our committees felt were was a good plan going into the next fiscal year, which starts at the end of the month, which has not been adopted yet by the council or the mayor. And it asks for some budget parity. There are some rationales outlined in the whereas sections that outline potential opportunities for the police department to evaluate costs. We don't know if all of them have costs to cut, but after seeing some of the items and how the budget has gone up over recent years, about how there's equipment, how there's potential salary reductions or attrition, we looked at all those facts and used those facts to say that we urge the mayor to right size the budget a little bit, and the council, and to consider how we can add budget to those other programs which we value so much, because they matter as much to the city's welfare as the police department. The whereas sections of the resolution are very police centric, only because it's the one agency which has the money which we felt most strongly needed to be rebalanced. But the purpose of the resolution is a split between the investments in the other agencies and the opportunities for cost savings in the police. With that said, I will take any comments from the floor.
I don't see any hands raised. Are there questions? Rick?
Rick?
Well, there's a hand raised because, Brian, you didn't present the amendment?
Yes, very good. I'm going to read the two amendments that we agreed to in the caucus before the full board. In the first whereas, the wording has been changed to, due to a disruption in city finances as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, comma, and that wording means that there is some parts redacted from within. Second, third, fourth. Is it the fourth whereas where it starts the NYPD's budget has risen in recent years?
Yeah, line 15, 16.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Mayor Bloomberg, yeah.
The words Michael Bloomberg and the parenthetical have been removed from the resolution. These were friendly amendments. They do not change what we resolved to do, and they don't substantially change the factuals presented in the resolution.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
And I don't see any hands raised, but I just wanted to say that if you're having difficulty voting, if you can't get the virtual ballot, I think most people are able to, we'll take at the second roll call, the final roll call, we'll take the votes of anyone that's having difficulty. They can just go right down the list. All right, so I think
5B, right?
5B.
We're voting on 5A.
Oh, we're voting on 5A. Okay. Yeah.
Voting on
5A, but Corinne, you can have the floor next.
But it feels weird to not say all those in favor, you know, like, isn't that, it seems weird, but I guess it's.
You can still say it, but everyone will just mark it on their digital ballot.
No,
it might be fun.
I don't know. Okay, I don't want to waste anyone's time. Please vote on 5A, and then we're moving on to 5B.
So 5B, as our electeds were saying at the beginning of this meeting, which was kind of speaks about the right to protest and just the conduct that many witnessed by the police force over the last few weeks. And the main author of this, of 5B, is Youssef Caleb and Kaylat, sorry, and he will speak to this particular resolution. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Karin, and thank you all for making this possible. I want to start by saying that the resolution was a labor of a ton of collaboration. I think a lot of careful deliberation and teamwork. So dozens of you have provided feedback, constructive, critical, and so on. That's been really appreciated. We can get into a lot of, the content, but I want to emphasize three basic things. So what does the resolution say? I think it largely focuses on reaffirming really fundamental, basic, intrinsic constitutional rights that we have, that we believe we have, that we expect to have, but that the last few weeks have demonstrated that that some of us might not have, either by virtue of the way that we look or by virtue of the way in which we'd like to freely assemble. So it was really important to affirm those values. The next question is, why this resolution? Why come out with a resolution? And simply put, that was driven by residents. It was driven by all the folks who emailed us, texted us, tweeted us in the district and outside that said, what's your stance on the atrocities and the misconduct that might be happening in the streets right now against folks who are typically marginalized, but also journalists, also essential workers, also peaceful protesters from the district. And so it was driven by people looking to this community board for leadership. The final piece is, what does the resolution aim to do? What does it want? There are a couple of provisions, and all of them are still sort of up in the air in terms of seeing our public officials get them to the finish line. But the first is redirecting the focus of the mayor, our council members, and NYPD leadership to protecting protesters, protecting freedom of speech, protecting journalists and essential workers. Some might argue that, the curfew is lifted, all is good, but the reality is there are folks who live among us who live under constant curfew by virtue of the way that they look. The second is around public accountability. We want to reaffirm the fact that our public officials, law enforcement, and not are publicly accountable to us. That manifests at the local level by asking our local officials to support 50A repeal to the finish line, but to also ensure that once it is repealed, that the NYPD and the city abide by its recommendations. The third is around funding, and obviously we just had a funding resolution, but it really aims to say, during this critical time, how do we right-size the NYPD budget for the moment? Especially as many have recognized that there are services that might not be best administered by a police department. And then the fourth is really a call to re-examine and redesign any programs, policies that have a disparate impact on individuals around the district, especially those who are people of color, and in particular are African American and Black residents, friends, etc. The final thing that I'll leave you with is, in some sense, the people, our residents, have already led the way on this, and we're just catching up. And so the question for the board in looking at this resolution is, are we going to actually follow the people's lead? And what really excites me about this resolution is our opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf.
Okay, questions? Jim Collins?
I'm afraid that I have to oppose this resolution for the three reasons that I distributed to friends or colleagues in both of these committees earlier tonight. When I first saw it, I abstained, but I believe now on review and looking at the data set that was used to arrive at, I believe it was 78 police officer or 75 police killings in New York City. I believe that data set to be incorrect because it is crowdsourced, and I believe that a better data set is available from the Washington Post. Second, I believe that the claim that police officers were deliberately obstructing their badges while simultaneously wearing name tags is probably an unfounded and unnecessary assertion of malfeasance by police officers. Certainly, I have no doubt some of them were doing as alleged, but to claim that as a general matter, I think is wholly inappropriate. And I have offered a substitute resolution or in the group chat that I believe takes account of more comprehensive police reforms than what is in this resolution, including repeal of the 48-hour law and making police identification more readily available. I would urge my fellow committee members who also abstained from last Monday night's vote on this resolution to look at that resolution, the substitute, and perhaps give it consideration as a substitute for this.
Okay, thanks, Jim. I don't know if you guys want to respond, or we have another question from Ronnie White. Let's
Hi, everyone. Yes, hi.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hi. I have to agree with Jen. It seems that the facts seem not from a solid source. And I also want to add, the NYPD offers training to civilians. It's the exact same training that the officers receive, and it's comprehensive. It's offered once or twice a year. It takes months to go through. It's several hours long for several days a week. And you get a clear understanding on what it takes to police. And then you also meet people from around the city. And then you'll meet people, I mean, we're here in CD6, but you'll see people from Brownsville and from the Bronx and from Staten Island and Queens. And then you get a sense of policing in NYC. And if you had a question about us, and I don't hear any sort of support about attending the 13th precinct meeting or the 17th precinct meeting, if you're saying you're looking for leadership on policing in the board, let's start there, because you can ask Deputy Inspector Commanding Officer Hellman at the 13th what a SAT is. He'll tell you. And if you need to know what it is for someplace else or need more detail, he'll be available. Someone will always be available. And then there are the neighborhood coordinating officers. They are dedicated in each neighborhood in the city to be available and outreach. So that is part of it as well. You can't dismiss it and not recognize it and work with what's already available. That's it.
Thank you, Ronnie. Yeah, we do have good, our precincts, our NYPD and our 13th and 17th are really very excellent. A lot of great people, but this is a kind of a broader issue and broader statements. But I don't know if we have a few more questions. If Yusuf and Corinne want to call on the folks asking questions, or if you want to respond, I don't know.
Really quickly, I'd respond to the 2 points on number 1, the data, and number 2 on the obscuring the badges. I think on the data, the database is linked there. The numbers are in line with the numbers in the Washington Post database in terms
No,
of.
they're not. They're not.
Jim,
The Washington Post.
Jim,
All right.
let him
Please let me continue.
Yeah.
They're in line in the disparities that they demonstrate. The Washington Post database is a different time frame. The other thing to note is the Mapping Police Violence database has, if you download the Excel sheet, a news article attached to every single killing that's cited. So I would recommend if folks want to go through it, I'd be happy to go through it. There isn't a comprehensive government database, for instance, that covers this, which is exactly sort of the problem that we're trying to get at here, is this
It's
accountability and transparency.
Wikipedia.
Okay, let's move.
Go ahead.
I think on the final piece on obscuring badges, my comment would be that at a time when there is heightened scrutiny around the behavior of law enforcement officials in our district, it, I think, struck a lot of people as not being the greatest conduct to cover badge numbers and again, not identify. Obviously, there are some cases where the number still exists somewhere else, but we've talked to people who said that wasn't the case. There's reporting that wasn't the case. So that's what this resolution is really about.
Thank you. So I'm going to go Kyle, Dan, Brian, and Jean. Those are the hands raised.
All right, thank you, Molly. I just want to speak as someone who is on the Human Rights Committee and what my thought process was going through for this particular resolution. So as most of you who know me, I'm not one to go to the extremes. I'm not someone to be reactive. I'm always about being proactive rather than reactive. And I think with this resolution, as has already been mentioned, is that it really addresses sort of the broader issues that we're seeing. No one is disagreeing that there are great police officers, that there's a lot of community benefit to it as well. But the point is, and where this sort of came from and why I voted to support it, is because all of us, when we joined the community board, took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And what this really does is it talks about those who are not upholding the Constitution, those who are violating it excessively. And I think that it's well written. I think that it captures the emotion and the sentiment of everything that's going on. I think nobody can disagree that with everything that we're seeing, that there needs to be some reform. And I think this is the first step, which is to stand in solidarity, to call out the things that we are witnessing that are excessive, whether the specific data points are 1 or 2, deaths off, to me was really immaterial, because I think that at the end of the day, we know that there are reforms that are needed, there are changes that are needed. And I think that this is an important resolution for us to actually take a stand on something and to show that we're standing in solidarity and that we're calling for changes, much needed changes. And just as like a last thing, it's like, I've seen, I've been on the board for 5 years, and I've seen us take a lot of action and emotional action on things like parks and street names and things like that. That to me, that standing up in this particular time of history is really important for us to do. So that's why I supported it, and I hope it provides some context for everyone else who might be thinking about it.
Thank you. Dan?
I'm sorry, Molly. I have to respond. That is very true. But back to my point, to be active, you have to be active. And there are so many precinct meetings that are empty. So, it's great to protest and to be involved, but too many people do not. You have to reach out to the police as well. They are accommodating. They will help you. There are bad apples, and I know that from what I know of the NYPD, they do work to weed out the people who shouldn't be on the force. And it takes a while, but they are working on it, and it is very important.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I have to
Thank you, Roddy. No, that's fine. Okay, so Dan, Brian, and then Jean and Rich. Okay.
Yeah, so just a couple of quick things. I mean, first of all, I agree with everything that everybody said. I think we're basically all in agreement with this. I mean, there should be more oversight of police. There's definitely a lot of negative things. There's not a centralized database, et cetera, et cetera. We stand with everybody, you know, all American citizens. I guess what, so I sort of feel like we don't need to talk past one another because we definitely are all in agreement. Based on what I've heard also, I feel like because we're all in agreement, we could also be in agreement and just maybe taking back a little bit of some of the claims that we're not necessarily 100% sure about, just so that we can put something in writing that we can all be very unequivocally affirming in supporting. So, you know, I know Jim spoke about a couple of numbers that maybe he didn't know, and then obviously Wikipedia, and people are literally right now to understand what's going on with police brutality and killings and prosecution, et cetera. People have Google alerts set. So that's something that we need to get to the bottom of, and we need to be a lot more forensic about it. So I'm okay with taking out some of the language where we're maybe sort of equivocating and speaking about things that we don't necessarily know 100%, as Jim was speaking to. So, I mean, I'm in support of his resolution. What I'd love just for us to be able to do to understand that a little bit further is maybe if he could just copy and paste what he was putting in the resolution into the text box, then I think
we need to have the open meetings law that we need to read it. So I don't, we have voted on this at the, is this correct? We voted on this resolution and committee. And so it would be, if there's an amendment, a friendly amendment or some change, we can debate, but we can't just have a whole separate resolution after this has been voted on in committee. So, and no, you know, the public can't see that. So that's, I don't know, is there one item, Dan, that you're referring to that you want to, a friendly amendment?
I mean, what seems just super obviously I agree with Kyle. We need to be on the right side of history here, and we're clearly at the precipice of something that I think could be incredibly positive. I would also not want to have any text that is sort of speculative. So I would, as a friendly amendment, I would like to remove anything about police officers, remove it, you know, obfuscating their badge number and their names, because again, that's not something that could be necessarily substantive.
Right.
I agree.
Fact checked, so I don't know. All right, let's go down the list here, and we have next Brian and
yes,
Jean,
I just want to
Rich,
say
and
that
B.
I've read this resolution. I think Yusuf did an amazing job on it. I think it's very well formed, and I think it really speaks to the moment and a lot of truths out there. I have personally witnessed the officers obscuring their names and their badge numbers via the black bands. I think that I totally agree with what Kyle said about the constitutional implications of how police issues affect how we operate in the city. I really don't think that the solution for this is for us to go to every precinct's community council meeting as a citywide issue. And I think we need to take action on this. And I really like this reso, and I'll be happily voting for it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Jean, and then Rich, B, and Anju.
Okay, I was actually going to call the question.
Can we do a few more? Go through a few more. I don't know if is there a set. Well,
this is Rich. I waived my time.
I mean, I don't want to. I think we've got the basic idea, but if somebody has a different point, then I'll wait.
Is there a second to call the question?
The position that I had and that I've distributed in the chat now is a resolution that's in the nature of a substitute.
Okay, like
if you want to call it an amendment, you can.
No,
I second calling the question. I second calling the question. Sandy.
Okay, so the question has been called and seconded. Sandy McKee.
Mark got his hand up though. Is it a procedural point?
No, I was going to second. I think we should vote on the amendment. I mean, on the resolution.
Okay. I guess we have to take a roll call vote, just all those in favor.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess I was trying to avoid any virtual. I love this virtual ballot. All right, so I guess
in favor of calling the question.
Yeah, of
Yes.
voting on this resolution.
Oh, voting. Okay.
Voting. So Seema, can you do a roll call? Is that how we do that, or we can't? Yeah, we have to do a roll call.
1 second, and I will prepare this. So that we can do this.
We might have to do this maybe a few more times depending on the.
It's fine. Just 1 second, please.
Molly, are we voting as is? Because
Yes.
We're voting on, yes, the resolution as is, but we're not voting. I'm sorry to be confusing, but I just want to make sure people are ready to vote. So the question has been called and seconded. So you'll say, yeah, I think, we're voting on, well, I guess we could just take the vote, right?
Yeah, then we could just take the vote, because if it's already been, called to question and seconded, then we could just use the digital ballot to vote.
Well, no, I want to be sure there's a consensus of the board that we want to move this
Molly,
forward. Yes.
Molly, technically, you should do the vote on calling the question. So we're
Yes,
proceeding
yes.
directly to the vote.
Okay.
Agreed with Claude.
So we need to take a roll call.
Yes.
Okay. So
calling the question, right?
yes,
On
Seema, so we're
calling
just
the question.
We're taking a roll call to, yes, we want to move this forward.
And I
So not
suggest that we just take is there objection to calling the question? Because I would be the one having an objection.
No,
and
you
I
do
have
that
none.
by voting.
And I have
Yeah,
none.
we're voting.
I have
Okay,
no
so Seema-
objection.
No, but you do that by voting.
I just want to make sure there's a majority of the board that is ready to vote on this.
I think we're all ready to vote.
Molly, you'd like to do a roll call vote, just
Just if we
yay
could
or
do
nay on calling the question.
Yeah, let's do a big yay or nay. Because
Okay, let's
I
do
don't
it.
think a roll call is necessary.
Okay, well, just quickly, yeah. Okay, thank you, Seema. I'm sorry about that.
So sorry, just so I'm clear, you want me to do the roll call, correct?
Just a roll call, yep. And just yay or nay if you want to move it forward.
Sounds good.
Seema,
Sorry.
I made a column for this that you might see.
I got it. Thank you. Thank
Great.
you, Cody. Thank you.
Cody,
Okay.
you're so amazing. All right.
I appreciate it. Yes, he is. All right. Kyle?
I'm in favor of calling to question.
Sounds good. Thank you. Cody, I can't enter in it though.
We can just probably take a voice. If we can hear a voice, we can get everyone's. I don't even know if you need to record it. We'll just if
You can
there's.
select from the drop-down menu.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Asia Badi?
She's not here.
Not here. Sorry. Martin Barrett. Martin? I know you were
Call the
here.
question.
Great. LV. Hey, Cody, is there any way to make this a binary 1 or 0? Because it takes up time to have to.
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh my gosh.
It's a drop down and I have to go and
Oh
select.
no, I didn't mean to say it to you. I was just sorry.
So far you've got Kyle and Marty, and you can do 1s and 0s.
Okay, thank you. All right, so LV.
Hey,
Yes.
can you hear me?
We can hear you, Dan.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. All right, LV? Yes. Thank you. Joan? Joan? Joan, are you, I know you're here somewhere. All right, we'll come back. Matt Bondi?
No to calling the question.
No. Okay. Claire Brennan?
Yes to calling the question.
Jim Collins?
Yes to calling the question.
Dan Devine,
Yes.
Beatrice Dismon,
B.
Beatrice,
Yes.
okay. You're in favor, I'm guessing. Janine D'Onofrio,
Yes to calling the question.
thank you. Richard Eggers,
Yes.
thank you. Charles Fernandez,
In favor.
This isn't really necessary.
Andrew Gross,
Yes.
Adam Hartkey,
Yes.
Molly Hollister,
Yes.
Paige Judge,
Yes.
Yusuf Khalid.
Yes.
Yusuf, did you say yes? I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
Yes. Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, John Keller.
Yes to voting.
All right. Kathleen is not here. Abigail Kruzmark,
Yeah.
Anton Malner,
Yes.
Kavita Matthew,
Yes.
Sandra McKee,
Yes.
Wells Magali,
Yes.
Richard Mintz,
Yes.
Karen Moore, not here. Philip Napolitano,
Yes. You've reached a critical mass already.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I was thinking that, Cody. Thank you very much. Okay, so
You have 23 people who have already said yes. That's more than half of the members on the call.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we're voting on the resolution 5B.
The ballot says 5AA, 5A,
Oh.
so I think it has to be corrected.
Yeah.
I updated it. If you refresh, you can see the change. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So is there a chair's report for, I guess for,
We have to vote on the.
I waive.
Yeah, we have to vote on the actual reso.
No, it's on your, it's in
it's on your
chat.
virtual, yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion in support.
Oh, we already, okay, well, no, we're voting. We agreed to vote.
Yeah, that's done. Yeah.
Yep.
yes,
Let's-
everyone can vote on their virtual ballot now via area.
Five, mine still says 5A. I'm not refreshing, but I trust that.
I'm afraid to refresh.
It's me too. It's the
The
correct
description is right. It was just the
on the
5A,
rights of
5B.
New Yorkers to protest and assemble, and on the use of force by the police department. That's what we're voting on. 5B.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I know this was this is a heavy lift. So I
And
guess
it was done in less than a week. It was very quick
Yes.
turnaround. Thank
Yeah.
you, all of you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to, are we at where, I'm sorry, ad hoc budget.
I waive my report.
Thanks, Brian. Sandy McKee, Chair of Transportation Committee.
We're still working on open streets, hoping to get more. And we'd also are really concerned about the uptick in traffic and trying to work through some of these issues. So hopefully over the summer, we may be able to address some of these things. We'll see what happens. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I don't know, you're staying on, Sandy, and we have a Kyle Atide from the budget, Chair of Budget Affairs and Street Activities for a joint.
Mm-hmm. So
right.
just very quickly, hopefully everyone got to read the resolution and heard the member of the public at the top of this meeting, Brian Owens, who's from the Restaurant Row East Alliance. So basically, this is what I consider a for us, by us resolution. This was originated by members of the community, particularly the small business owners, retail and restaurants from the East 50s. This is, it actually ended up being at the same time, but City Council introduced a resolution, a bill, 1957, which creates temporary outdoor seating through temporary street closures. So the big points about this is that it is temporary. It would expire on October 31st or whenever social distancing guidelines are lifted. We've put in a lot of provisions to make sure that people are protected, that workers are protected, that it takes into consideration traffic flow. It's really covered all bases, and it passed unanimously with business affairs as well as transportation. And as most of you know, we are very strict about pedestrian safety and public space. So we thought this was a really great idea to ensure that small businesses could survive. It's a temporary measure that not only allows businesses to rehire workers, but also allows them to generate enough revenue to actually make it to next year. So that was the thought behind all of this. And then again, as I mentioned, it was passed unanimously jointly.
Questions? I see Brian.
I'm calling the question.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Rick or John?
No, well, it's
Second.
me, but okay.
Oh,
Rick is
Gene, I'm
fine.
sorry, Gene seconded. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're voting on resolution 8A. And moving on to 9A.
All right, so 9A is a bill that was introduced by Senator Hoylman. It extends the governor's executive order to allow on-premise liquor licenses to sell for off-premises consumption. The senator put in a lot of great provisions to ensure safety. It does not affect open container laws, so that's very important to know. This just allows the small businesses, again, a method to survive. And so we supported it again unanimously.
Okay, we have a few questions. Matt and then Adam.
Thank you, Molly. Kyle, I'm sorry I had to bounce off that meeting early and I didn't get to ask these questions at the meeting, but is this a temporary measure, and when does it expire?
Yes, so it's a temporary measure that continues for 2 years after.
Okay, and then was any consideration given to what impact this would have on liquor stores? Are they entitled to sell whole bottles of alcohol to go?
No. So it's essentially the same license that they have on premises, but you're allowed to take it to go. So again, for example, you still have to provide food with whatever you're selling off premises to purchase.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Adam and then Reshma.
Oh, I was going to call the question, but I can hold on.
Reshma, and then we'll go to Adam.
What kind of safety measures are they taking?
Can you hear me?
Oh, go again.
Hello?
Kyle, go. We can hear you now.
Sorry. Yeah, so there are two big components of the bill that Senator Hoylman put in. So the first is some of the things that I mentioned. Everything has to be sold in closed or sealed containers and accompanied by food. Even for takeout and delivery, there's certain specifications. That's the type of vehicle that can be used for those deliveries. And there's a lot of provisions for oversight and community input. So it does require the SLA. After a hearing, it gives them the powers to suspend or revoke a licensee to sell alcohol for off-premises consumption, and community boards would have a say in those hearings. It requires the SLA to do regular outreach to us, particularly within the 6 months of implementation of the bill, so that we can have a say and have feedback on that. It also requires them to hold 3 hearings on the law between 4 and 2 months before it is set to expire throughout the state. So there are a lot of, it's still, everything is maintaining with the open container laws. It doesn't change anything regarding that. So all of those safety precautions about public consumption are still in effect. This just allows the executive order that the governor put out to be extended for an additional 2 years, just so that businesses could survive.
Okay, seeing no other, thank you, Kyle. Seeing no other questions, I'll go back to Adam. Who called the question and who's on mute?
Call the question.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, Raj seconded. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're voting on resolution 9A.
Or B, or now we're doing it. Yeah.
Now we're doing B, right? Is that, did I have that wrong? Did I say that? Oh, no, okay. Now we're going to, yeah, 9A and finally 9B.
Mhm. So again, with 9B, this is an economic recovery and relief plan that was put together by the small businesses of New York City and led by the New York City BIDS, the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, just for our specific communities, but it was co-endorsed by small business organizations and bid associations throughout the city. And basically it proposes a number of different plans that would allow small businesses to survive and actually make it through this economic devastation that we're going through. It requires help on all different levels of government. As a committee, we decided to endorse this and support the small businesses and getting the backing that they need. So there are a couple of different recommendations that they make, including paycheck protection program and the loans that go with that, the fiscal implications, and then government backstops for rent and mortgages during the emergency. So it's really a stopgap for a lot of the small businesses that we're seeing in our neighborhoods that would allow them to continue instead of shuttering down.
All right. Are there questions? Okay, well, let's, if there are no objections, we'll go ahead and vote on 9B. And then Kyle, do you have a report? There's a lot of great work you guys have done. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just a quick couple of things. First of all, I have to thank the committee because our last meeting was jam-packed with all of these things that you see. We had very substantive discussions that took, input from co-op boards, people in the community, the small business owners themselves, business leaders, bid leaders. So I want to thank my committee for sticking through that and really coming together on this. Specifically, I also want to thank Anton and Seema for putting together the resolutions. And just a reminder, as everyone knows, I mentioned last time that we're working with Community Board 8 on online workshops that are related to small businesses, everything from how to actually implement new, public health guidelines to the legal ramifications, consumer responsibilities, et cetera. So we had our first workshop that was held last week. And it went really well. It's all of them are being moderated by the president of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. So it's really great that we have her. Our next one is coming up next Thursday. So, thank you to the board office and staff for sending out that information. It'll be on our socials as well as in the weekly emails that we get from them. So I would encourage everybody to join. This is really important stuff. And just as a side note, obviously BASA meets throughout the year. We'll meet through the summer, especially with everything going on. So I highly encourage everybody to attend our meetings because economic recovery and development is going to be a huge, huge thing, particularly for all the small businesses in our neighborhood. So I really would love the input and engagement of everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. And can I just say that for the city streets and the open streets for the restaurants, if anyone has an idea or knows a local restaurant, I have some in my neighborhood that they're asking for that space and the closed streets on their side streets or, wherever, but please share it with the office, share it with me, Kyle. We will make sure they get they may already know how to reach out to DOT in the city, but let's try to get as much help as we can to those businesses. All right, moving on to parks, landmarks and cultural affairs. Do we have Pam on the line? I think
I'm on the line.
Hi, Pam.
Hi. So I have very little to say except that over the summer, everyone keep your eyes out for rats, for any issues that come up in the park, plantings, and as we start to open, if this happens, we have to go back again to the basketball hoops if that happens. But just keep your eyes open and let me know what's going on, what you see. And that's it.
Thank you. Hopefully we can talk more about budget cuts with you as well. So we'll revisit that conversation. Thank you, Pam. Adam Hartkey, Vice Chair of Land Use. Oh, thank you. Land Use and Waterfront.
Okay, brief. I think I'm the last one to report. Quite the marathon this evening. So we didn't get to jog over the Verrazano, and we don't get gold medals at the end. But I think a lot of positive work was done tonight. So hats off to all the committee members and to all the members on this meeting this evening. I think a lot of great work has been done as we head into quote unquote summer vacation. Land Use and Waterfront will be meeting on June 22nd, so about 2 Mondays from now, and we're going to discuss, similar to what we had in our last meeting, about ongoing waterfront issues with ESCR and the broader sort of mitigation. You know, with social distancing and sort of options being limited due to budget cuts and COVID, you know, we need places to, you know, recreate and to, you know, just live basically. And so I'll keep it at that. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your hard work. And if you're willing, see you on Monday the 22nd. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. And I think Sandy had her hand up, and maybe that was for Pam, or was that for Adam?
Actually, it was for Pam. I was wondering if there's any follow-up to keeping the POPs open as social spaces publicly.
There is not yet.
So we're talking with her vice chair. We have a call. So hopefully we can kind of like move that forward with, I know it's quite urgent right now, all the parks issues. So
yeah, I mean, there are definitely some POPs that should be open that are not, and it would be a great thing to do. I also wanted to add, I forgot to mention that 14th Street Busway has been extended. It's going to be semi-permanent.
Yeah. Woohoo!
And it's been extended to Avenue C. And I know they've asked if we had any concerns, and I think so far it's been very, very positive for our district. So we're saying, yes, please continue.
Good. Okay, thanks, Sandy. All right, so we're at old or new business. Does anyone have anything?
I have some new business.
Okay, Jim.
Happy birthday to
Oh,
you.
no,
Happy birthday.
No.
And I ask the board to join me.
Oh,
Happy
they're not gonna,
birthday,
like,
dear Mom. Mute. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I shouldn't have said anything. I really appreciate. Thank you. That's so sweet. I really appreciate it.
You didn't need to say anything. We all knew.
You didn't get a
Oh.
cheesecake though. You gotta wait.
Oh,
till I see you in
cheesecake.
person.
I would
Yeah,
take a cheesecake right
I'll
now.
give you my cheesecake. I'll give you a cheesecake when I see you.
2
Okay.
cheesecakes, one from me and one from Jim.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
You can decide which one you prefer.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so hearing there's no old or new business, so we'll move on to Seema for second roll call. And then everyone hopefully has submitted their ballots, their virtual ballots, but if anyone was having difficulty, we'll need to just take your vote via when she gets your name at roll call.
Yeoman's work there, Cody. Well done.
Yeah, definitely, Cody. Thank you.
Hey guys, almost ready to wrap up. I'll start from the bottom. Claude Winfield. Claude?
He's on mute.
Okay, I know he's here.
Present.
There you go.
Ronnie White?
Happy summer, everybody. Present. Have a great summer. Look forward to the fall. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Pam Vassell?
Present.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven?
Present.
Thank you. Corinne Vanderdonk?
Present.
Mark Thompson? Not present today. Anju Suresh?
Present, sorry.
Thank you. Susan Steinberg?
Here.
Madeline Sims?
Here.
Letty Simon?
Here, everybody have a healthy summer.
Thank you. I know Sandra's not here. Sean Sherman? All right, I think you're here, Sean. I am here, Lucifer. I don't think he's here today, just making sure. Ann Seligman.
Hope to see everybody this summer.
Thanks.
In person.
Lawrence Shayer.
Here, have a healthy and a happy summer.
Thank you. Frank Scala. Not here today. Okay. Jean Santoro.
I just wanted to add my voice to say I think everybody did an incredible job tonight on a really tough agenda. Thank you all. Have a great summer. And yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, great. Matt Roberts.
Present.
Rishma Patel.
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
Rajesh Nair.
Here.
Philip Napolitano.
Here, thank you.
All right, Karen Moore is not here. Richard Mintz.
Here.
Rich, please submit your ballot.
Wells Magali.
Here.
Sandra McKee.
Here.
Kavita Matthew.
Here.
Thank you. Anton Mullner.
Here.
Abigail Cruzmark.
Here.
Thank
Good
you.
work, all.
Don't think Kathleen Kelly is here. John Keller.
Here.
Yusuf Khalid.
Here.
Paige Judge.
Here, and happy summer.
Thank you. Molly Hollister.
Here.
Seema, Sean Sherman is here. He was having audio trouble.
Oh, I got him. I saw him pop up.
Yeah.
Adam Hartke.
Here.
Andrew Gross.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Charles Fernandez.
Present.
Charles, do I have to take your votes, I believe?
Yes.
The vote, yes.
Okay, so I can start with
Seema, I got it.
you got them all, or
I'm entering it now.
okay, sounds good. Thank you. Richard Eckers.
Here.
Janine D'Onofrio.
Here.
Beatrice Disman.
Here.
Dan Devine.
Present.
Jim Collins.
Here. Happy summer.
Thank you. Claire Brennan.
Here.
Matt Bondi.
I'm here, and happy birthday, Molly.
Thanks, Matt.
Joan Berenbaum.
Here.
Thank
And
you.
stay safe and healthy, everyone. And happy birthday, Molly.
Thank you. LB Barroso.
Here.
Martin Barrett.
Here.
I believe Asia is not here.
Right. No.
And Kyle, last but not least.
Present.
Thank you.
And happy summer, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, Seema. All right. So if there are no objections, we will, I'm losing my voice. It's just in time. Adjourn the
Wait,
meeting.
do we get the totals?
Seema has to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you, Sandy. Seema needs to do, and you texted me that, Jesus, and I even, yeah. Yes, before we adjourn, Seema.
Sure, I'm trying to.
So I'm looking at it now.
Oh, Cody might have it.
Every resolution has passed tonight. I can read off the totals. I'm having just an issue getting the
I don't think
numbers
we need to.
for
I mean,
9A and but I have 3A, 5A, and 5B so far.
I mean, typically we don't see the final vote tally.
Yeah, they will be included in the minutes.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're good. All right.
But they all did pass.
Excellent. Great job, everybody.
Happy birthday.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna go have
go.
dinner now and celebrate.
Enjoy.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Molly.
your kitties are
Happy birthday, Molly.
Take care, Molly.
Okay.
Good one,
bye-bye.
everyone.
Happy
Happy birthday.
Molly.
Happy birthday.
Thank
Thank you.
Molly.
Birthday.
Good night.
Good night.
Happy birthday, Molly.
Thanks, Larry.